Bless This House was a British comedy film made in 1972. It was a spin-off from the Thames television sitcom of the same name. But there's more to it than that. It's like a film out of the metaverse. It's an alternative reality for the Abbott family where things are a little bit different, but also quite familiar. It's also a wonderful slice of 1970s life. Join me as I take a look at Bless This House, the movie. Just like the sitcom, we have Sid James and Diana Coupland playing Sid and Jean Abbott. Sally Geeson is there playing their daughter Sally Abbott. But instead of Robin Stewart, we have another Robin Askwith, playing their wannabe artist son Mike Abbott. Robin Stewart, the original Mike in the TV show, had prior commitments and wasn't available for the film. Interestingly, Askwith had already appeared in Bless This House. It was the final episode of Series 2 where he played Sam, Mike's art school friend. That episode was entitled A Touch of the Unknown and was written by Dave Freeman. More on him later.
You could crash down at the college over the weekend. There's not going to be anybody there.
Oh, yeah, that's an idea.
Yeah, right. Listen, you could doss there for years. Nobody'd know. I'll sneak you out some blankets.
That's great. Thanks.
Trevor Lewis, who is played by Anthony Jackson, is replaced by Peter Butterworth as Sid's next-door neighbour and good mate Trevor Lewis, with Patsy Rowlands playing Betty. Bless This House as a sitcom was very popular. Debuting in 1971, it was the 5th most watched show, with 8.9 million homes tuning in each week. It presented a traditional and simple formula. A mum, a dad, and 2 outspoken teenagers. There's a kitchen, a bedroom, and a sitting room, and lots of misunderstandings. It was an instant hit, easy and funny evening viewing, and it's still very watchable today. I do recommend that, by the way. The complete series is available on DVD. By the end of the second season, the time seemed right for a movie version. This was to be a Peter Rogers production and be directed by Gerald Thomas, well known of course because they were the producer and the director of the Carry On films. Many of the other crew were from the Carry On team. Music was from Eric Rogers, with cinematography by Alan Hume. It would have felt a familiar team to Sid and many of the cast. Writing credits went to occasional writer for the Bless This House TV series Dave Freeman. Freeman would later contribute to the Carry On television specials, and even later Freeman would write Carry On Behind and Carry On Columbus. The plot, and some spoilers. The plot for the film is bespoke, but it does touch on the themes which were either hinted or explored in the first 2 series of the TV show. In 1970s suburbia, somewhere in southern England, middle-aged homeowner and breadwinner Sid James just wants to be able to sit down and smoke his pipe, but as with the TV show, he is easily frustrated by his wife, his work-shy art student son, and the fashion-conscious, politically aware daughter. Their next-door neighbour, Tom and Annie Hobbs, puts their house up for sale. Interesting little fact that Annie Hobbs is played by Janet Brown, the real-life wife of Peter Butterworth.
Like it? Oh, it's lovely, Dad.
The rude and uppity Ronald and Vera Baines and their daughter Kate move in next door, and through a series of incidents and misunderstanding, things do not go well. Ronald and Vera Baines were played by Terry Scott and June Whitfield, while Kate is played by Carol Hawkins. This uppity neighbour plot mimics episode 8 of the first season of the TV show, which was also written by Dave Freeman. In that episode, the new neighbours are played by James Cozzens and Juliet Harmer. Anyhow, Sid still works as a rep, and while trying to sell his wares to the Fizzo Drinks company, his daughter Sally arrives with a group of environmentalists to protest at the use of non-disposable containers.
Non-disposable containers! No non-disposable containers!
That's your daughter? Yeah, sort of. Well, you know what these kids are. Anything for a laugh. Won't affect the order, will it? What order?
Meanwhile, Kate, Ronald's daughter, starts working as a waitress in the Quick Snack Cafe, where Mike, Sid's son, is the cook.
How do I look?
Fine. What'd you say your name was?
Kate.
Ah, welcome to the galley, Kate.
Thank you.
And romance begins to blossom.
Double egg and chips. Love you.
Double cheeseburger and chips. I love you too.
I mean, who couldn't resist that psychedelic Morris Minor? Given that their parents don't get on, they attempt to hide their relationship. There's a little subplot about Jean starting an antiques business, but this feels a little tagged on in order to give the characters something to do. There's another, slightly larger subplot that does have ramifications later. That's when Sid and his friend Trevor find a book about distilling, and they decide to create an illegal still in their new shed.
Yeah, well, it hasn't matured yet, has it?
And as their new neighbour Ronald is a customs and excise officer, this does not bode well.
Distillery fumes.
Get away.
After a most excellent custard pie fight at the Quick Snack Cafe, Kate and Mike get engaged and the wedding day arrives. On the wedding day, a fire starts in the shed and Ronald and Sid put out the fire and miss the actual wedding, but a fire engine gives them a lift to the church just in time for the photos. Of course, although Mike gets married at the end of the film, he is still single when the series returned for its third season. It's a multiverse film, so that doesn't really matter, does it? The film was shot between the 19th of June and the 1st of August 1972. The interiors were shot at Carry-On's home in Pinewood Studios, but the film really opens up the world through its exterior shots. We get to see places we wouldn't normally see in the usual sitcom. For a start, Sid has a bigger garden. The exterior shots of their houses were filmed at number 7 and number 9 Bolton Avenue, Windsor. Other exterior scenes were shot in Burnham, Buckinghamshire, including St Peter's Church for the wedding scene, Church Street for the magistrate's court and the pub scene, and the High Street for that fire engine scene. Lots more about locations can be found on the Real Streets website. I'll leave a link in the description below. Bless This House is one of my favourite films. It's over 50 years old, but to use a cliche, it takes me back. The roads, the vehicles, the people. It's heightened for sure, but it's a slice of life. It's a memory-ish of my childhood. It has a Carry-On feel, but that feel is from the earlier films. Those films where there's a sense of mischief, but also a real domestic warmth. Sid is in the perfect role here. He doesn't chase the girls, not like the caricature that he had become in the later Carry-On films, and the setup has that 1970s domestic familiarity about it. Sid is a kind of 1970s reasonably prosperous everyman. The mishaps and the misunderstandings that occur are both probable and improbable. Sid doesn't overdo the laugh, Dinah Coupland is Jean, Sally Geeson is instantly recognisable, and Robin Askwith brings a different, more frenetic energy to Mike. His performance so impressed Peter Rogers that he was offered a role in the upcoming film Carry-On Girls. But it's the rest of the ensemble cast that opens up this world, the world of the film. They are both familiar and unfamiliar. The gentle bumbling of Peter Butterworth is a great foil for Sid, and I think makes a more convincing best friend next door than Anthony Jackson does in the TV series. Again, it's a different energy for the portrayal of Trevor. It's more domestic and rooted. He also feels a more suitable husband for Patsy Rowlands' Betty. We also, of course, have Terry and June before they were Terry and June, but essentially the synergy of the comedy coupling is there. Terry Scott's character is way more snooty, but it's a funny snooty, and the character has 3 dimensions, and we see this development or transformation as the film progresses. We also have Tommy Godfrey as Alf, George A. Cooper as the cafe owner, Bill Maynard as Oldham, and we also see Marion Stone as Muriel, the rival antique dealer, and Wendy Richard as Carol the waitress. Stone had already appeared in the TV series playing the other woman Daphne in episode 8 of series 2, Wives and Lovers, and Wendy Richard would go on to appear in the next Carry-On film, Carry-On Girls. And all the time this is firmly placed in the 1970s. I mean, because that's when it's made, but it's also timeless. For me, it's a time capsule, a memory of a time I kind of miss. The film wasn't particularly well received by the critics, but I loved it. In fact, when it first appeared on television, I recorded the audio of the film by putting my cassette recorder against a TV speaker. And I would listen to those C60s like someone might listen to an audiobook or a radio play these days. And when I came to re-watch the film years later, I hadn't realised how embedded in my memory the dialogue had become. And even today, I know the lines when they come up. Yep, I'm very fond of this film. It's a time capsule and an oddly reliable insight into life in the 70s. Plans were afoot for a sequel, as well as the 7th and 8th season of the TV series. Sid James is said to have told Diana Coupland, "It's fun and so successful, we'll still be working on Bless This House till one of us kicks the bucket." Sadly, 4 days after the broadcast of the final episode of Season 6, on the 22nd of April 1976, Sid James collapsed on stage at the Sunderland Empire during a performance of the mating season. Sid had suffered a heart attack and later died on the way to the hospital. And so, with Sid's passing, Bless This House came to an end. So what are your thoughts on the film? Let me know in the comments below. And if you've not seen it, go and give it a look and come back and let me know. Thanks for watching, and please consider subscribing, and I'll see you soon for a new video.